RIB, how does an RIB misuse, and abuse its power? Because it can too. Thoughts? This way? This way? Anyone? Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this particular setting, I felt that it was an important process to protect the children.
Yes.
And that's ultimately my job, is to protect the children and to protect the people, the staff, the faculty, the teachers in my school.
Yes.
That's my job. And so I came in saying, okay, this was a formality for us to protect the children. But then I kind of felt during the moment that it was a little bit, it perhaps took a little bit of a different turn in terms of the formality being a power play, a power dynamic of which I needed to shrivel into nothing to stay on, because I didn't know how to negotiate it.
You didn't know how to negotiate it. You weren't expecting that particular degree. I'm going to just come for a second and ask Deb's character. And relax in the character and relax in yourself. Your thoughts about all of this as your character, now listening to a play exploring IRB issues.
My character has some history as being a classroom teacher, as working in administrative roles over the years, and has a history with the school division. And although I may come across as being really hardline, my ultimate intention is to protect the children and the families that stand behind them, and to uphold ethical research protocol. And I'm also in very close consultation with our school lawyer, because a lot of this protection is tied up in what's legal, what's not, what could be potentially litigious. So my character has, of course, safety is the ultimate, and at the same time I am aware that I'm a major gatekeeper. And although I really like these researchers too, and I think that, and the principal as well, the research idea, I see it as being very responsive to the community, what's happening culturally, what's changing, and how it might evolve into some policies and school policies that are sensitive and responsive to the changing character of the community.
So you see a role, and I don't like the words objective or subjective because they're problematic, but you see yourself as more of a distant role, a colder role, and that colder role will actually make you a better servant of protection?
I wouldn't say colder as much as an upholder.
Okay.
An upholder.
Although others may perceive it as colder.
Yes.
And I'm bringing my own bias to it. I confess, I've been on the road for 2.5 weeks, and I took this morning off. I watched old episodes of The Rifleman. Okay, really interesting. It's before its time in some ways, but this particular episode was a person from the state who actually came and said, your cows have hoof and mouth disease and they all have to be shot. And Lucas McCain was really upset at first and ended up doing it. And later, you warm up to this character that at first you perceive as cold. And I think that's one of your first comments, is you're coming in predisposed, and that predisposition could start you off on the wrong foot in relation to entry. But in this particular one, as the half-hour episode or 20-minute episode proceeds, you begin to see the human side of this person. And he said, I have one of the most difficult jobs in the world. You know, and gatekeepers do. You know, and so to humanize the gatekeeper, I haven't shared this with you because I just saw it this morning during my half day off, is the gatekeepers, we need to see that the humanity behind the gatekeeper. So we're not trying to say these people are bad, these people are good. We're trying to find that win-win again with them all. So we're just going to do the next scene quickly, and that next.
Anyone else
Yeah.
Was just struck by, I mean, I brought an interpretation to the whole 6.
Yeah.
It was as if our bridge, the principal, started by introducing the researchers, introduced the other group, tried to make a point on behalf of the researchers, came apart from dissociating in a way. I read that as a sense of this is not going well, this is failing somehow. And then as people caucused, she became an observer here, more connected with this group. So one of the things that I asked myself is, I think everybody looks at research as potentially an intervention. You talked about the things that this would bring to the school and what benefit it would be to these people. So everybody saw that research not just as something separated, but as an intervention in the situation. It seems to me our principal had really high goals about what could happen as the matter of the research, and perhaps in this discussion, the research people basically failed to deliver and could not present their idea in ways that were winning.
Yeah.
And so the natural allegiance or the affinity comes through at the end because she's not going to risk the students just to get a good idea if these guys can't deliver a good project.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
I was just saying, I brought to the tableaus the first scene where they collide. And so I have Aaron here as being very adversarial and that interrupting the whole thing. And I have to say that filtered through this whole scene for me, like, you know, you know, that everything's going really well until your character starts trying really hard to make the case, and then everybody kind of like, you know, backs up.
Look at our last scene's title. Selling it, and how trying to sell it can work really against you.
Absolutely.
So what is a good invitation? We're going to explore that in a few minutes. So what's really exciting I'm finding right now as one of the co-authors of this is you're jumping ahead to another scene that we're looking at, which says we're exploring similar commonalities here that we're trying to grapple with. And the same thing as you said at the beginning, there's an overarching commonality, but we can't connect it yet. And I find my colleagues across North America have these difficulties in relation to entry. And by dramatizing it, we're hoping we can better articulate some of those as we begin to try to create those bridges, which we'll explore. But we may do a little bit more walls first. But I'm going to do the next scene, part of the scene, very quickly, just so we have it. We won't talk about it, but I think we got it, is we're going to see those 6 tableaus again, which you'll see is our cheat sheet titles. But we're going to see it with the inner feelings as opposed to the ones we would naturally do. One of my favorite lines from Bertolt Brecht's play, The Caucasian Chalk Circle, says, "This is what he wanted to say, but didn't." And then it goes back and we see what he wanted to say but didn't. So this is going to show us the 6 scenes as they're emotionally feeling inside, not what they're projecting towards others. Okay? Eyes closed. How did the story change for you, or did it change at all?
I was struck by the way she hid
Yeah.
and turned her back. It was more evident that she was almost feeling disempowered
Yeah.
in that moment. It's just more evident.
Yeah. And what we find is working with the visual metaphors, it lets us see, what we put forward and what we really want to do, and how do we move and navigate through these situations. You want to give just a quick inner dialogue on that piece?
Sure, I could take you through. So really excited on this one, big smile in between them. And then the second one, in between them, but introducing, maybe not as much of a bigger smile, just more of like a softer introduction. The third one, I was out of the conversation, turned my back, but still in the middle.
Yeah.
The fourth one, I was out of the conversation as well. They were having conversations, but I was siding behind superintendent, and kind of this side.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I just kind of hid, not really in the picture, in between them.
And again, what we wanted to say or didn't say, what we wanted to do and didn't. The last tableau on your one. Yeah, scene 6, your exit. Thoughts on?
Just complete surrender, because it's done.
Surrender and defeat. I was excited. I was genuinely excited to do this work. Felt it was good work, and I felt defeated that others didn't believe that.
I think defeated is better than surrender.
What did you, I'm going to ask you to create a new tableau, and an audience can help us for a second. What did you expect to happen by the end of the meeting? Not this picture, but the picture that you thought was going to happen. Create it, or others can help us create it.
It's all jumping in at the same time.
Remember, freeze it. How do we get there? And that's part of the challenge that we're exploring in relation to entry, is how do we get there? That's what you wanted, and that's what you expected. Where did it fall apart? So we're going to look at scene 5 to begin to explore maybe part of that.